Okay, so if I asked you to picture, like, the ultimate dinosaur tank, you'd probably land on an ankylosaur, right?
Absolutely. Those fused lizards, they're sort of the textbook example of heavy armor in the dinosaur world,
Right.
built like bunkers.
Exactly. And for ages, we kind of picture their evolution as this, slow and steady ramp up, get the body armor sorted first, then maybe much later develop that signature tail club.
Yeah, that was the prevailing model, largely based on fossils from North America and Asia mostly. You have the Ankylosauria sitting within the Thyreophora, the shield bearers, alongside the Stegosaurs.
Right, the plate-backed ones.
Exactly. And these ankylosaurs, they were generally low to the ground herbivores, cropping up from the Middle Jurassic right to the end of the Cretaceous period, usually under a meter tall, so that armor was pretty essential.
Prime targets otherwise.
Yeah.
But here's where the sources we're looking at today just, well, flip the script entirely. We're talking about the world's oldest confirmed ankylosaur.
And it's from Morocco, Middle Jurassic.
Yeah. And this guy, Spicamelus acurnfer, apparently didn't get the memo about taking things slow. Its armor wasn't just early stage, it was, well, you described it as shockingly over the top.
Well, the paper described it as having uniquely elaborate dermal armor, unlike that of any other vertebrate extant or extinct. Which is pretty strong wording for a scientific paper. It's an incredible find.
Definitely.
And it forces a major rethink. Initially, the identification was a bit shaky based on just one partial rib bone.
Oh, really? Just a rule?
Just a rib initially. But then newer, much more complete material came to light. That really cemented its place as an ankylosaur and highlighted just how bizarre this armor actually was. Not just tough, but ornate. Spiked in a way we hadn't seen.
Okay, so ornate, unique armor right at the start. But that's not even the biggest shocker, is it? It's the tail.
Yes, the tail weapon.
We always thought those massive clubs were a later invention, maybe early Cretaceous at the earliest, definitely not Middle Jurassic. Spicamelus just blows that idea out of the water.
It really does.
Yeah.
And the evidence is anatomical, found right in the tailbones themselves. They found what are called handle vertebrae.
Handle vertebrae. Okay, unpack that for us. What does that actually mean, and why is it such a smoking gun for a tail weapon?
Right. So think about swinging something really heavy, like a sledgehammer. You need a stiff handle, right? You can't swing effectively if the handle just bends or twists.
Makes sense.
These handle vertebrae are tailbones towards the end of the tail that are fused or tightly interlocked. They create this incredibly stiff, rigid rod.
Oh, okay.
This rigidity is absolutely essential to support and effectively swing a heavy, bony club at the very tip. It prevents the tail from just buckling or twisting under the force. Finding this structure in Spicamelus is direct proof.
Proof that it had the necessary anchoring for a weapon.
Precisely. It means that complex tail weapons, the whole system, evolved maybe 20, even 30 million years earlier than we previously thought, right there in the Middle Jurassic.
Wow. So let's recap. Oldest known ankylosaur from Africa, not the usual spots. It had arguably the most bizarrely elaborate armor ever seen. And it's already swinging a tail club millions of years ahead of schedule.
That's the picture emerging, yes.
Which naturally makes you wonder, if the armor was so extreme so early, was it really all just about defense? Or was something else going on?
That's a key question the sources tackle. And the consensus is that for ankylosaurs in general, the function of their osteoderms, that's the collective term for the plates, scutes, spikes, clubs, it was likely multifaceted.
Okay.
Defense against predators, absolutely, that's probably primary. But maybe also species recognition, telling friend from foe. Display, perhaps attracting mates or intimidating rivals. And maybe even thermoregulation.
Controlling body heat with armor.
Potentially, yes. And the clues often lie in the histology, the microscopic structure of the bone itself.
Right. Looking inside the armor plates, what do we see there?
Well, the typical ankylosaur osteoderm is actually quite sophisticated in its construction. Think of it like reinforced concrete. There's a thin, dense layer of compact bone on the outside that's the hard shell.
Okay.
But inside, it's mostly thick, spongy, cancellous bone, lighter. And crucially, it's all interwoven with loads of collagen fibers. These act like the steel rebar in concrete, giving it tensile strength, making it resistant to impacts without being excessively heavy. Efficient, strong protection.
Okay, that makes sense for defense. But then, why did some later ankylosaurs, especially in the late Cretaceous, seem to simplify their armor? If Spicamelus started out so elaborate, why dial it back?
That's a fascinating point. The reduction in complexity in some later forms could suggest a shift, maybe focusing purely on defense against specific threats, making the elaborate display less necessary. Or maybe courtship rituals changed, but the histology gives us more clues.
How so?
When scientists looked at the spikes of certain polycampids, think Gastonia, another type of armored dinosaur, they found something different. Less compact bone, fewer collagen fibers.
So,
Yeah.
weaker.
Less suited for direct combat or defense.
Exactly. Lower structural strength, which points away from a purely defensive role for those specific spikes. So if it's not primarily for defense, what else? That brings us back to display or thermoregulation.
And there's evidence for the heat control idea.
There is. Some of these less robust osteoderms have these large, sort of pipe-like vascular canals running through them, big channels for blood flow.
Not something you'd need just for strength.
Right. It suggests a lot of blood circulating near the surface. It's quite similar, actually, to the large vascular networks you find in the bony scutes of modern crocodiles.
And crocodiles use those for
Thermoregulation. They can shunt blood to those scutes to either dump excess heat into the environment or absorb heat when basking. So the thinking is maybe some ankylosaur armor acted like a built-in radiator or solar panel?
Wow. So the armor could be a shield, a billboard for display, and a thermostat. That's incredibly complex. It is. And pulling all that together, connecting tiny details of bone structure to huge evolutionary patterns, and then inferring behavior like display or heat management that takes synthesizing information from really diverse fields: paleontology, histology, comparative anatomy.
It sounds like a massive data integration challenge, trying to make sense of these highly specialized, scattered pieces of information to see the bigger picture.
It absolutely is. And that challenge, making sense of complex, specialized data, isn't just limited to paleontology. It's everywhere today, especially with the rise of AI. Businesses face it all the time.
That's a great point. It brings us to our sponsor, actually. If you or your organization are wrestling with complex data, trying to train AI, automate processes, or figure out how to integrate AI effectively, you need to know where it can really make a difference.
That's where Embersilk comes in. They specialize in exactly that: AI training, automation, integration, software development. They help you pinpoint where AI agents could have the biggest impact, whether for your business or even personal projects.
So if you're looking at leveraging AI, definitely check them out at embersilk.com.
A useful resource for navigating that complexity.
Okay, let's pivot back to Morocco. Because finding Spicamelus there isn't just about one amazing dinosaur. It really highlights how little we know about life in Jurassic Africa.
That's very true. The body fossil record, actual bones from the Middle to Late Jurassic in Morocco, is incredibly sparse. It's quite shocking, really.
How sparse are we talking?
Before Spicamelus and the confirmation of the Stegosaur edroticlet, we really only had 2 other confirmed large dinosaur taxa from body fossils in that window: the sauropods, Cetiosaurus, and Atlasaurus. That's it. 4 species known from bones.
4? That sounds like a really empty landscape, just a few giant herbivores wandering around.
That's what the bones alone would suggest, but then you look at the other fossil record, the footprints, the ichnology, and it tells a completely different story.
The tracks left behind. What do they show?
A vastly richer picture. In the central High Atlas Mountains, particularly the Eiley Formation, which dates to around the same time, the trackways are abundant and diverse.
So not just sauropods.
Oh, far from it. We find tracks of large sauropods, yes, but also small and medium-sized theropods, the predators. We find ornithopod tracks, those are common plant eaters, but we have 0 bones for them here in this period.
Wow. Yeah.
There are even enigmatic bird-like footprints, plus tracks from crocodilians and pterosaurs, the flying reptiles. The footprint evidence shows a bustling, diverse ecosystem.
Which the bones completely miss.
Yeah.
And tracks can tell us about behavior too, right?
Yeah.
Not just who was there.
Absolutely. They're frozen moments in time. For example, some of the sauropod tracks in Morocco have these distinct displacement rims, meaning the mud or sediment got pushed up around the edge of the foot as it sank in. It suggests they were walking on quite soft, squishy ground, maybe struggling a bit under their own weight.
Gives you a real sense of the environment.
It does. And those bird-like tracks I mentioned, they show really clear entry and exit traces for the toes.
Like marks showing how the foot went in and came out.
Exactly. It indicates the foot penetrated quite deeply into soft mud, and the animal was likely moving slowly, carefully across this really unstable surface. It's fascinating behavioral detail.
So the tracks reveal this whole hidden world of smaller predators, other herbivores, flyers, swimmers, all missing from the bone record for this place and time.
Pretty much. It shows just how biased the body fossil record can be. What gets preserved as bone is only a tiny, tiny fraction of what actually lived there.
It's such a stark contrast. We find the world's oldest, most bizarrely armored ankylosaur completely rewriting the evolutionary rulebook in a place that, if you only looked at the bones, you'd think was almost barren.
It really underscores the point. We've learned that Spicamelus acurnfer had this incredibly extreme, maybe partly decorative armor way earlier than expected, and that tail clubs were a thing in the Middle Jurassic. Huge shifts in understanding.
But the bigger takeaway seems to be about the fossil record itself.
I think so. It highlights the limitations of relying solely on body fossils and boosts the importance of ichnology, of studying those trace fossils like footprints.
So wrapping this up, what's the final thought we should leave our listeners with?
Well, beyond the specifics of Spicamelus, it's this. Every time we find an ancestor this unexpected, this early, this different, it forces us to redraw the map. But here's the really provocative question for you to think about.
Lay it on us.
If the oldest known ankylosaur, this unique weaponized creature, turned up in Africa, a place where the bone record is so poor compared to the rich track record, just imagine what else is still hidden there. What other bizarre, specialized, completely unknown species are waiting beneath the Moroccan sands and stones. It just reminds you how much of the story of life, especially in certain parts of the world, is still waiting to be discovered.
A tantalizing thought. Makes you wonder what the next big Moroccan discovery will be.
Exactly.
Well, that was fascinating. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you have a moment, leave us a 5-star review. It really does help get the word out.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.